Dan, welcome to the Open Source Summit in Edinburgh. How's it going for you at the moment?
Oh, great, thank you. I'm the Cloud Native Computing Foundation is part of the Linux Foundation, and so I always look forward to these open source summits to get to talk to the larger open source community.
Yeah, I often found out myself through dealing with Microsoft Windows in the 90s that you got stuck in a little cupboard in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get out there and talk to people and find out what they think. I remember when I was younger, I heard about you working on NetMarket, which you were well known for, and I was even in touch with you by email. Do you want to say anything about that, or just quickly?
Well, it's a long time ago now,
it is, yeah.
25 years ago, I had a startup company that created the first secure commercial transaction on the web.
Yeah.
And so
I was very impressed with that because I was trying to find a way to build my own website and use PGP with it. We eventually worked out how to do it, but we couldn't get at the time, eBay and Amazon were coming along, and we couldn't quite figure it out to make it. We got it to work as a technology,
yeah.
but we couldn't quite figure it out as a business. So
Well, we had a small business, and then I sold it to a multi-billion-dollar membership services company. But of course, it was really just the first step, and then all these other
I
companies
think that was
came
about the
along.
time, one of the first times I visited the States, and I met you and talked to you about it. I think that's what it was. I got the memory of talking to you.
That's great. That was a while
I
ago.
think that was it. Well, moving on to the next question. Can you describe your role with Cloud Native Computing Foundation?
Sure. So I'm the executive director. So I run the foundation. We are a little bit less than 3 years old.
Yeah.
And so we started then with just 28 members. And sort of starting anything new is genuinely challenging. We had a big advantage that Google had this software they created internally called Kubernetes that was based on their 15 years of learning on how to do container orchestration systems that they use for Gmail and Google Search and everything else. They contributed that to the foundation, and we had another group of core founding members, folks like IBM and Cisco, Huawei, Red Hat. But our growth since then has been really pretty spectacular, where we're now up to over 320 members. We have over 65 end user members of companies like WeWork here in Europe. We have Zalando and Amadeus, and folks like eBay and JD.com in China, Uber, Lyft, many others.
Yeah, it's a lot of activity.
Definitely.
You never quite know with these things because sometimes it happens in 1 year, and then sometimes it takes 20 years. It's a bit difficult to say. You can't really put a quantity on it.
It's hard to know ahead of time. I think almost for everyone involved, our growth has been faster than we expected or originally hoped.
Yes, well, it seems to be going on fairly quickly at the moment. But you always get into a situation where you get kind of a knot or something goes wrong somewhere. It's the way the world is.
Another metric is that at our conference 3 years ago, we had 500 people attending, and in Seattle in 2 months, we're expecting 7,500.
Yes, that sounds about right. I've been through quite a few of the US conferences, and it is quite, apart from well organised, it's quite an event. It's a bit like going to a religious convention, but for us techies.
That's maybe, except that it's like a religious convention where everyone's a skeptic.
Yeah.
So we definitely, because they all show up doesn't mean that all those developers quite
involved in any form of science or engineering, you have to be a skeptic. You have to be sort of say, yeah, when it happens, I'll believe it. You led efforts to create a conformance standard. Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah. So one of the really biggest successes that CNCF has had is that we had these great projects led by Kubernetes, but there was a real concern that Kubernetes would fork and that different vendors would create different incompatible versions of it. So working extremely closely with the Kubernetes community, we created the Certified Kubernetes program. And that works by using the conformance tests that are built into the core open source Kubernetes project, and then having a process for individual vendors to run those tests against their implementation and show that each version of Kubernetes supports all of the required APIs.
Yes.
And then they upload that, it's documented in a public place.
Yes.
But perhaps the most unusual part is that, users can then come along afterwards and verify that the hosted platform they're using or the distribution they're using still meets those requirements.
Yes, it had to do with certification, I suppose, and which is part of the process of managing the whole infrastructure.
Although it is unusual that we actually have it all on GitHub, so we don't need to have our own test lab. It's actually quite cost effective and distributed, and there's a crowdsource aspect to the verification. But anyway, we launched that literally just a year ago, and we now have 73 certified Kubernetes vendors.
Just on the web page, I noticed it was doing quite well. So
there's a lot of good, nice logos there.
Just the one I've never been sure about. Does Kubernetes replace virtualization such as VMware or other virtualization applications or software?
The simple answer is yes.
Yeah.
I'll give you this.
But it's a bit more complex.
I'll give you a little more complicated answer where for the last decade, the biggest trend in computing has been virtualization of saying that instead of needing to run a different application on each server, you create virtual machines that wrap around that application. Now you can fit multiple applications on the same server.
It's a bit difficult to explain without a slideshow. You need to show a visual aid too.
Yeah, people do the analogy of houses versus apartment buildings, or townhouses, or there's some different metaphors there.
Yeah.
The idea for containers is that the metaphor is shipping containers. So you wrap it with this lighter weight environment called a container. And now you can put multiple containers onto the same server, but unlike virtual machines, they're much more dynamic. So you can move them between machines, you can recreate them, and the idea is that you can pack them much more efficiently.
Yes, it's a much quicker way of dealing with a lot of data or a lot of, well, for example, in quotes, web servers or virtual machines.
And so then the trend is to take your existing monolithic application and break it into separate pieces called microservices. Wrap each of those in its own container. And once you do, then you need a platform for orchestrating all of those containers, and that's the standard has become Kubernetes for doing.
Okay. Well, I'll just ask you this other question here. How do you see the future for the Cloud Native Computing Foundation? It looks as though it's going to be a big success, as it is already.
Right now, it's looking pretty bright. We, although I would say that we think of 2018 as being the year that Kubernetes crossed the chasm from those early adopters into the early majority. But there's still tons and tons of organizations out there that haven't begun their cloud native journey. So we're offering a lot of services around training and certification, and then our conferences and information on the web to try and help that late majority, eventually the laggards or skeptics.
Educate and inform.
And so we hope to be doing that for years to come.
Okay, well, that's it, Dan. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy your trip home to Manhattan.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.